On the night of April 26, 1986, the world's worst nuclear disaster occurred. In 1970, near the city of Pripyat, Ukraine, construction began on the Chernobyl power plant. The first reactor was commissioned in 1977, the second in 1978, the third in 1981, and the fourth in 1983. The fifth reactor was supposed to start operating on November 7, 1986, but construction was stopped due to the disaster. Each reactor was capable of producing about 1,000 megawatts of energy, which is enough energy to power about 10 million homes for a year. The four reactors together produced about 10% of Ukraine's power supply. The city of Pripyat was founded on February 4, 1970. The name came from the Pripyat River, which was close to the town. The town was first used by the engineers and the construction workers at the Chernobyl plant, which was only 3 kilometers away. But when the reactor started getting commissioned, new workers at the plant chose to live there. At the time of the disaster, the population of the city was 49,360. During this time, an amusement park was in the process of being built in the city. It was set to open 2 days after the city was evacuated. On the day before the explosion, reactor number 4 was scheduled to shut down for maintenance. Before the shutdown, the operators performed a test on the reactor. They were seeing that if an unexpected shutdown occurred, the turbines of the reactor would produce enough energy to keep the cooling systems running until backup generators were turned on. Due to the need for accurate results, the technicians had to turn off several safety features in the reactor. But in the middle of the test, there was a quick need for high power in the city of Kiev, which is about 93 kilometers from the plant. They had to delay the shutdown by 9 hours. At 1 a.m. on April 6th, the reactor's power dropped suddenly, making a dangerous situation. The operators tried to help the low power, but due to the fact that they never turned back on the safety measures, the reactor lost control and exploded at 1:23 a.m. First explosion of the reactor was a smaller steam explosion, which heated the graphite moderator and released radioactive particles. Then the graphite moderator caught fire, increasing the amount of radioactivity released. Eventually the core exploded, sending pieces of the reactor flying into the other reactors and towards Pripyat and Kiev. It is estimated that about 7 billion curies of radiation were released as a result of the explosion, which is about 7 million times more than what is used for radiation treatment. 1 curie is equal to 37 billion atoms disintegrating per second. The reactor burned for 2 weeks. 2 engineers died in the initial explosion, 12 engineers died later to acute radiation poisoning, and 5 people died fighting the reactors that caught fire in the explosion. Radiation from the disaster was carried throughout the world. The public didn't even find out about it until a radiation detector was triggered in Sweden, which is about 1,600 kilometers away. Pripyat was evacuated 36 hours after the disaster. People were told to only take necessary items with them and that they were going to return soon, but the city was never repopulated. It is estimated that 31 people died shortly after the explosion, but 6,000 people are thought to have died due to the disaster. Today, none of the reactors are still operating. There is a 30-kilometer radius around the reactor that is widely uninhabited called the exclusion zone. A month or so after the disaster, a hastily built structure went up around the reactor to keep any more radiation from escaping. People call this the sarcophagus. But over the past 25 years, parts of the sarcophagus have deteriorated and fallen apart, revealing some of the reactor. Today, the Ukrainian government is building a bigger, stronger, more durable sarcophagus to fit over the old one. The new sarcophagus is arch-shaped, and it will slide right over the reactor. It is scheduled to finish construction in 2015. I feel that the theme of this year's History Day connects directly to the Chernobyl disaster. The workers at the plant were charged with the responsibility of protecting their families and everyone around them, and those people had the right to think that they were safe with a nuclear reactor less than 5 kilometers away. When the reactor exploded, the workers failed their responsibilities, and the people near the reactor got their rights taken away from them. The Chernobyl disaster was the worst nuclear catastrophe in world's history, carrying out more than 10 times the amount of radiation released in the leaking of the Fukushima reactor and the bombing of Hiroshima. It was a very big event in history and should be remembered.